When we look at the remains of ancient Egyptian palaces, they don't look too impressive to us. That's because they tend to have hardly survived. It might be strange to us that an ancient Egyptian palace wasn't built of stone, but was built of unfired mud brick, and that's why they tend not to have survived. They did, however, have limestone column bases that would have supported stone or wooden columns. This is in fact the palace of the queens of Akhenaten at Tel El Amarna in Middle Egypt. We gaze over the remains and see a colonnade, or at least the column bases, around what would have been a beautiful sunken garden in antiquity. The column bases can be enormous and can be inscribed with inscriptions relating to the pharaoh. Sometimes we see traces of painted decoration. Here we're looking into what in fact would have been the bedroom of Pharaoh, Amenhotep III's bedroom at Malkata, and we see some traces of painted plaster. Egyptologists have reconstructed some of the decoration on the walls of Amenhotep III's bedroom. This is a reconstruction of the painted ceiling of that bedroom. Amenhotep III, as he lay in bed, would have looked up at outstretched vultures, goddesses protecting him as he slept. The ancient Egyptian royal family liked to surround themselves with images of, for example, their children. The princesses here, the daughters of Nefertiti and Akhenaten. This is a fragment of painted plaster from one of this royal family's palaces. But most frequently, the ancient Egyptian royal family liked to surround themselves with images of flora painted on the walls. The mud brick walls were heavily mud plastered, a layer of gypsum, and then the subtle painted images. Sometimes these images were of the natural world, the animal world, the bird world. These pigeons would have flown across the walls of Amenhotep III's palace. On the ceiling of Amenhotep III's bathroom was this: bull's heads and rosettes, a fabulous painted ceiling fit for Pharaoh. Other examples of decoration of royal rooms come in the form of tiles, glazed composition ware, or faience tiles. Notice the daisy tile below. We know at Tel El Amarna there was one whole room that was inlaid throughout with daisy tiles. But most commonly we have the feature of the lotus, or water lily, the Nymphea caerulea, opening its blossoms. And sometimes friezes of this flower, together with bunches of grapes, adorned the walls of sumptuous palaces. The ancient Egyptian pharaoh liked to also make it clear to visiting ambassadors exactly who was boss. These tiles come from the wall of one of Pharaoh's palaces. They show captives, foreigners, enemies, shackled, controlled. It's quite clear who the Pharaoh of Egypt thought was boss. In fact, these tiles come from a palace of Ramesses III at Medinet Habu. A surprisingly small palace. We're looking into it here. It's alongside the temple of Ramesses III at Medinet Habu. The Pharaoh of Egypt, to be successful, had to be peripatetic. He had to travel throughout Egypt. He had to have palaces throughout Egypt in prime locations, and particularly associated with large temples. This one had a throne room, as you can see the steps leading up to the throne platform, and next to the throne room, a bedroom and a bathroom. This is an ancient Egyptian shower tray. It dates from over 3,000 years ago. Sometimes the features in royal palaces may surprise us. The royal women at Amarna kept animals in their palace. These are feeding troughs. And if we look at this block, we see an ancient Egyptian representation of a palace. To the left, animals in a pen. To the right and to the top, if you look closely, you'll see a royal menagerie of lions.